All right, minute past the hour right now. We're going to begin with breaking news. This morning, Albuquerque fire crews rushed to the scene of an apartment fire.
Yeah, this is a fire we've learned just in the last 30 minutes is deadly. News 13's Catherine Mazzone has been at the scene all morning long, gathering more information. She's live there now. Good morning, Catherine. What do you know?
Good morning, Crystal. Now, as you can see, it's a lot quieter now. Most of the fire crews have left, but we've watched several investigators walking around this apartment complex you see behind me. Obviously, you can't tell that there was a fire here except for the window here, which is obviously covered in soot. Now, the fire started at around 2 this morning. Take a look at this picture sent to us from Angel Romero at the scene. You can see flames shooting out of that same window. Albuquerque fire crews rushed to the scene to find heavy smoke and flames coming from the second-story apartment. At the time, the fire did spread to another apartment. Crews were able to quickly put out the fire within about 20 minutes.
During suppression operations, we did locate one victim inside the apartment of origin. We also had 2 other patients that were transported from the scene to the hospital with minor burn, smoke inhalation, and laceration injuries.
Fire officials say the victim was one of 3 people that lived in the engulfed apartment. The other 2 transported from the scene also lived in that same apartment. And another person from the apartment next door was also taken to the hospital with injuries. Now, the cause of the fire and the cause of death in that individual are still under investigation. Now, of course, there are a number of people who will be out of a home this morning. Back to you.
All right, thanks for that information, Catherine. Now, we spoke to the mother of one of the people in that apartment. We'll have what she has to say coming up in our next half hour.
Also new and developing this morning, police are searching for a gunman who shot and killed a man overnight in a northwest Albuquerque neighborhood. Video just into our newsroom this morning shows the scene in the 8900 block of Cloudy off of Ladera off of Unser. Police say about 10 last night, people in the area heard gunshots. When officers got there, they found a man dead inside a car after being shot several times. Police have not said if they have any suspects or persons of interest in the case. We're staying on top of the latest right now. Meantime, a raid by Bernalillo County Sheriff's deputies leads them to multiple stolen cars. Deputies moved in on J&E Auto Salvage near Rio Bravo and Broadway Wednesday morning on a warrant. They found 11 stolen vehicles, they say, on top of drugs and a stolen gun. We checked, and the owner, Jerry Frazier, is still in jail this morning on a slew of charges. Deputies say this kind of operation is uncommon.
This large of a scale is not that often. Usually we'll find 1 or 2 cars, but this is an actual business that appears at this point to be taking stolen vehicles, chopping them up, either selling them for the parts. And so it was a larger scale operation than what we normally see.
Deputies also found a chopped up custom trailer from a local business worth $27,000.
Grand jury has indicted a man on murder charges in a triple shooting over $30. On February 1st, police say Jason Cummins went to a home at Rice in Rio Grande and confronted a man and his 2 adult sons about a $30 debt. Police say Cummins shot them, injuring the sons and killing the father. He's facing 11 charges, including first-degree murder. A former city employee will serve 15 years for what DEA agents called one of the biggest meth busts in Albuquerque. Back in 2012, agents found 18 pounds of meth in the South Valley home alone. That's a value of $3.5 million. At a second home, they arrested 44-year-old Charles Padilla and found more meth and 19 guns. Padilla once worked at the Sunport.
5 minutes past the hour, new life-saving protection for Albuquerque's 4-legged officers. Albuquerque police canines Bo, Ringo, and Lex all got their new canine protective vests yesterday. They were all paid for by a nonprofit group called Vested Interest in Canines. Bo, Ringo, and Lex are the first of 6 APD canines who will have those custom-made stab and bullet-resistant vests.
These vests are rated even higher than the vests that police officers wear in the field. These are both bullet-resistant and stab-resistant vests.
Those vests, are in memory of Rocco, a police dog killed in the line of duty in Pittsburgh last year.
An Albuquerque lawmaker wants to force more parents to vaccinate their kids. Democrat Representative Deborah Armstrong's bill would no longer allow parents to opt out of vaccinations because they don't believe in them. They'd still be able to ask for an exemption for medical and religious reasons, though. But a doctor or a member of a clergy would have to sign a waiver. Armstrong says right now about 60% of exemptions are based on personal beliefs. Scientists say they've made a remarkable new advance against HIV.
Scientists at the Scripps Research Institute in Florida have announced the creation of a drug candidate they say is so potent and universally effective, it might help the body stop HIV. The scientists say the drug blocks HIV in monkeys, which could lead to a vaccine for humans.
It looks like Jeb Bush would take home the bid for GOP presidential nominee if he ran. A recent CBS News poll has him at the top of the list among contenders. 49% of self-identified Republicans said they would vote for him. In a major foreign policy speech yesterday, he distanced himself from his family, telling the audience he, quote, is his own man. Democrats polled said they would likely support Hillary Clinton for their party's nomination.
The Department of Justice could be going after the city of Ferguson, Missouri, and its police force. Reports say if the Ferguson Police Department does not make some changes on its own, the DOJ is prepared to bring a lawsuit for tactics that discriminate against minorities. This comes after a federal investigation into the shooting death of Michael Brown and an investigation into the department. Outgoing AG Eric Holder says the results of the investigation should become public in the coming weeks.
2 Texas teens will appear in court this morning after police say they were targeting Walmart customers, shooting them with metal darts. Police say the 18-year-old boys followed their victims in a pickup truck, slowing down to hit them with the darts from a blowgun. The darts looked very similar to this. The teens targeted the vulnerable, hitting a 72-year-old woman and a 10-year-old boy. The dart punctured his arm about a quarter-inch deep. One of the teens was also arrested for felony assault with a deadly weapon. The other teen denies being involved at all. And we begin with that breaking news we've been telling you about all morning. An apartment fire overnight turns deadly.
News 13's Catherine Mazzone has been at that scene all morning long gathering information. She's now live with a look at what she's learned. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Adam, Crystal. We just watched a couple more fire engines leave the scene, but there is one left. We've been watching investigators circle this apartment complex behind me. As you can see, there is evidence that a fire happened here by that window up on that second floor. Soot covers the top there. The fire started this morning at around 2. Take a look at this photo Angel Romero sent us from the scene. You can see flames shooting out of that window. Albuquerque fire crews rushed to the scene to find heavy smoke and flames coming from a second-story apartment. At that time, the fire spread to another apartment. Crews were able to quickly put it out within 20 minutes.
During suppression operations, we did locate one victim inside the apartment of origin. We also had 2 other patients that were transported from the scene to the hospital with minor burn, smoke inhalation, and laceration injuries.
Fire crews say those injuries happened while the 2 were trying to escape. Another person from the apartment next door was also taken to the hospital. Now, we did speak to a woman who says she's the mother of one of those patients. She says one of those folks had 3rd-degree burns and had to escape from the balcony. Back to you.
All right, Catherine, thank you. And the cause of the fire and the cause of death for the victim inside the apartment are under investigation this morning. There are a number of people that will be out of their homes due to this fire.
And in some other overnight breaking news, police are on the hunt for a gunman who shot and killed a man overnight in a northwest Albuquerque neighborhood. This video just into our newsroom this morning shows a scene on the 8900 block of Cloudy. That's off of Ladera, off of Unser. Police say around 10 last night, residents heard gunshots. When officers arrived, they found a man dead inside a car after being shot several times. Police have not said if they have any suspects or persons of interest in this case. We'll continue to follow the story, bring the very latest as it becomes available.
Also this morning, Albuquerque police are investigating what caused a rollover crash on I-25 in the overnight hours. Happened about 1 this morning on northbound I-25 at the Gibson off-ramp. No word on if alcohol was a factor or the condition of the driver. We'll keep you posted.
APS paid former Superintendent Winston Brooks $350 grand to go away, but that didn't work, and now he's suing for even more. In August, the school board and Brooks signed off on a buyout agreement. Now, under that deal, nobody from APS is allowed to publicly disparage Brooks, but a month later, a lawsuit says interim superintendent Brad Winter broke the rules. The Albuquerque Journal published a story in which Winter said of Brooks, quote, nobody wanted to work with him, and Brooks often refused to work with community and business groups, which created animosity toward APS and damaged its reputation. Brooks is now seeking a total of $125 grand.
Do you owe taxpayers an explanation for this?
You know what? I can't comment again. It's pending litigation. As a district employee, I cannot comment.
Winter would not tell us if he'd read the agreement before he spoke or even confirm he said what's alleged. Brooks' attorney told us a lawsuit speaks for itself and declined further comment. The fight is not over. Today, work on Albuquerque's Bosque Trill is at a standstill after a vote by City Council.
Yeah, new this morning, word from the mayor's office that he is not giving up yet. The City Council put the brakes on the controversial project last night with a 5-3 vote right along party lines to back emergency legislation filed by Councilor Isaac Benton. Last week, the city started construction on a new trail that will run from the Central Avenue Bridge to I-40. The city hopes it will keep people from wandering off the paths and disturbing the habitat. But many opponents say the trail is ruining the Bosque. Recently, Benton went as far as to say the city went behind the public's back to start the work.
I really do regret having to bring forth this legislation, and it is intended to reestablish the dialogue and kind of rebuild public trust.
And new this morning, a statement from the mayor's office saying, quote, we do not believe this bill is in the best interest for the sustainability of the Bosque or the community, and we will be reviewing our veto options. It goes on to say the city plans to meet with opponents and will move forward. Time's 5:36, staying on top of the latest developments at the New Mexico legislature. We now have reaction from both parties after House Democrats stormed off the House floor. Representatives were debating a bill Tuesday night that would allow the state's best teachers to move through the ranks more quickly and earn more money sooner. Democrats say at the last minute, Republicans introduced a substitute tying teacher pay to teacher evaluations. Democrats walked out and Republicans passed the bill with a vote of 37-0.
The Democrats have made clear that, they want to obstruct our reforms. And you saw 30 people having a tantrum last night because they're unable to block our bill that gives raises to our best teachers.
And we owed it to our constituents to show in a strong and forceful way that we are not going to participate in a process that amounts to nothing more than a sham.
Representative Nate Gentry says the Republicans played by the book. He claims Democrats treated them worse when they controlled the House. The bill is now heading to the Senate.
3 strikes could get life for violent criminals if one lawmaker gets his way. House Majority Leader Nate Gentry wants to clear the way for mandatory life sentences for people convicted of 3 violent crimes. His legislation joins a growing list of tough-on-crime proposals being floated by the Republican majority. Democrats say most of the bills are just penalty enhancements and would be costly for the state's correction system.
And police say they've arrested a violent criminal caught on camera stabbing a man on a city bus. Shamari Roberts is now in custody in Alamogordo. APD says the 21-year-old is the man you see here in this video stabbing his girlfriend's ex during a fight on an Albuquerque bus earlier this month. Police have identified the victim as 35-year-old Michael Rosa. He has now been released from the hospital.
And new this morning, there are disturbing claims about ISIS fighters.
Yeah, Iraq's ambassador to the U.S. says the terrorist organization is harvesting human organs from victims in Iraq, then turning around and selling them for profit on the black market. The UN says there's no proof, but they're investigating. The U.S. State Department says it cannot confirm the claims, but there is no reason to doubt them considering ISIS's past atrocities. Analysts say the operation could be a way of keeping the group financed. The U.S.-led air campaign has destroyed many of the group's lucrative oil facilities. Today marks the 3rd and final day of the White House summit on countering violent extremism. In remarks yesterday, the president said the U.S. is not at war with Islam, but is at war with who he calls people who have perverted Islam. He called on Muslim leaders to do more to discredit the idea that the U.S. and its allies are determined to suppress that religion. He is expected to address the summit again today.